Welcome to yet another day of Bhagavad Gita Sadhana. It's wonderful to have you here. I'm Laura or Atmadarshan. We are continuing to explore the theme of what is your path in life, in yoga, in anything. We are on the final path delineated by the Bhagavad Gita. It is like a final test of sorts. If you read through the Gita, you can actually kind of track your spiritual progress in a way, because most of us start with the what do I do? What do I do? There's a crisis. What do I do? Which is the first 6 chapters of the Gita. And then we evolve from there. Chapter 18 is one of the longest chapters, which may give us an idea that its path can be one of the most difficult. So let's see how chapter 18 starts, shall we? Arjun asks Krishna, and this is a difficult verse to translate into English because the Sanskrit words that are used are highly nuanced, and we don't really have a distinction for them in English. In fact, I've seen translators use the same word for the two concepts described in these first couple of verses. So here's one interpretation. Arjun asks, "Mighty armed one, I want to know the nature of renouncing both actions, Krishna, and the craving for their results, demon slayer." So we can look at the actual question as being important, because by the time we're getting to chapter 18, we have to make a decision about really how are we going to live our lives or follow our spiritual path. And for many of us, it's like, I have to make the right decision. And the mind starts going into these twirls, these gymnastics. And this is kind of what's happening to Arjun. He's asking the same question he did at the start of the Gita, but now with fancier terms, because he's learned from Krishna. Basically, at the beginning, Arjun's like, I don't want to fight this war. Why do I have to fight this war? And Krishna says, well, fight it, but don't be attached to the results. And now in chapter 18, Arjun's going, hey, can you let me know one more time the difference between renouncing an action and just renouncing its fruits? So, like, he's basically asking, if you're asking me not, or if you are advising me to fight this war and give up the results, well, why don't I just not fight this war? But he's saying it with fancier terms. And this is what happens to us when we get to the precipice of spiritual advancement. The same thing that started us on our quest is going to come up again. And how do we react to it this time? Krishna, being the fabulous teacher that he is, doesn't give Arjun a hard and fast answer, but as we talked about yesterday, he starts reviewing everything Arjun already has learned and knows. Because really, Arjun knows what he needs to do. You really know what you need to do. A teacher can be a good reflector, but if that teacher is telling you what to do, they might be actually hindering your progress in a way, because you have to get through these mental gymnastics that you're pulling on yourself. The mind, the survival mind, is the biggest obstacle to progress. I mean, it keeps us alive, and we might say, well, it's helped me grow, and it has, but it's helped you grow in the material world. And to transcend that, you have to let it do its thing in the material, but you have to move beyond it. And the mind is going to go, I've worked so hard for you. I've done so much for you. Stay with me. Don't abandon me, right? Don't give up on my thought patterns. Don't give up on my habits. Don't do that. So this chapter 18 is the process of all these mental gymnastics, and Krishna gives Arjun a whole lot to think about. And then at the end, instead of saying, okay, here's the answer, he says the most important part. If you read chapter 18, you go, I have no idea what's going on, and it's so much. The very end of his exposition, Krishna says, O Arjuna, has this been heard with a one-pointed mind by you? Has your ignorant delusion been destroyed, conqueror of wealth? Well, many of us on the spiritual path come to a point where we have the option of what's called spiritual bypassing, which is we use the spiritual path to avoid that which we find uncomfortable. I've seen this in ashrams. People go to the ashrams in India or anywhere and say, oh, I get to shut myself away from the world. That means I don't have to deal with the bills I've left unpaid, the children I've left unraised, the family relationships I've left unresolved, the this, the that. Yeah, I can just go there. Well, guess what? They're waiting for you when you leave. Or even if you don't leave, they're in here. So the idea of this chapter is don't spiritually bypass. If there's something that it's your duty to do it. But let go of the results of it. If you're a parent, sometimes being a parent is hard. And you go, I want to give up. Good luck with that. Be a parent and just do the best you can. Because kids don't come with instruction books, right? Life. Oh, I have a life, but I don't feel like I'm very good at it. I'm going to just give up and let somebody else tell me how to live my life. That's not going to work. And you can use all the mental gymnastics you want to justify that kind of bypassing. But Krishna says, instead of giving Arjuna the answer, I love this. He says, the key to the getting over this stage and to remembering what you already know and to knowing what is true in your heart is listening with a fixed mind. So if somebody is trying to talk you through something, or if life is trying to give you a lesson in any number of ways, be present with it and be fully present with it. And then your delusion will be destroyed. Sounds easy, hard to put into practice. And it's kind of ironic that Krishna calls Arjun conqueror of wealth. You know, we think of wealth as being something in the material world. He calls Arjun that because Arjun is not swayed by material wealth at all. He does what he knows is right, regardless of whether there's a financial or material reward for it. But now Arjun's like, I'll do the spiritual work, but only if there's a spiritual reward for it. And Krishna said, just like you abandon material goals to do what's right, abandon this whole idea of a spiritual, shining, right thing to do. Abandon hopes of intellectual wealth, abandon hopes of spiritual wealth, which often comes with pride. You know, we want people to go, you're so spiritual. Abandon that, just like you've abandoned material wealth. And there you go. Oh, easy. Maybe. So as we do the practices today, I invite you simply to listen. That is to be present, to be focused. You'll get what you need to know from here, or if that's hard, nature is on your side and will provide you a clue. Well, let's see what turns up today. Maybe you have a question. Bring to mind a question you have that seems to tangle up your mind. Like with my shirt, which is better, King Kong or Godzilla? I think let's go listen and find the answer. Switch. For our contemplative practice today, I invite you simply to listen. Just listen. Notice what you hear either outside or inside within. We'll check in 5. Welcome back. I hope you found some answers today. Mine was interesting for me. I didn't have any idea who to dedicate this practice to, so I kind of planted that in and I listened. And then a name came up, and then the mental gymnastics started. Well, is that really the best person? Why did you pick that person? Blah, 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 blah. So I just kind of have to go with what I heard inside. And this practice is dedicated to Paul, wherever you may be. May its benefits reach you. So this is what the mind does. It engages in silly things like which is better, King Kong or Godzilla, and we miss the big message, which is give blood. It's a Red Cross shirt. So what's the big message waiting for you that your mind is arguing about? Feel free to share. We'll see you tomorrow.